Okay, everybody, I have good news and bad news for you. So, first, the good news. I did a video a couple weeks ago about this emphasis de-emphasis technique that I saw demonstrated in a Dan Worrell video. So, I took Dan's tutorial and recreated it in Ableton to be able to use the technique there. It's super cool. I made a rack out of it that I use a lot on drums to be able to shape how the signal hits a saturator. I'll put up links to my video and Dan's video and the racks that I made. All that stuff is still good, all super useful. The bad news is somebody commented and caught me on a mistake. I did not do the null test correctly in that video, so he was left answering some questions. Let me actually pull up his comment here. The guy who said it was Cody Pradum. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So he left a very kind comment saying, like, cool video, but he did bring up the null test. He said, he was like, I don't think he did it right, and he explained why. And he posed a question in here that I wanted to address. He said, all of that said, null testing the mid-side conversion doesn't address what I think is the crucial question: whether or not EQ8 will null against the original signal when used for this de-emphasis/de-emphasis technique. In Dan's original video, he makes a point of illustrating how various EQ plugins won't cut a signal in exactly the same way they boost it, meaning that a boost followed by an otherwise identical cut will often result in a changed signal rather than the same signal. That's a very fair point. So I thought it would make sense to make a video to address it. So let me just turn all this stuff off before I demo it. And I'll be demoing this in Reaper and Ableton. Actually, let me go to Reaper first, because that was the software that Dan Worrell did this demo in. So here, what I have, let me just mute this track. I have the same piece of audio copied. This is from one of my other sample packs, the Vision Magnet sample pack. It's a bunch of samples I made with a Prophet 6 and a Roland Space Echo, all in hardware. So I just made a bunch of these loops, right? And here we have a duplicate of this loop, the C minor 120 loop. And then down here, I flip the phase on the second channel. And if we play these back together, we get a perfect null. So in other words, the phase is exactly reversed on the other channels, so they cancel each other out exactly. So we can see sound in the channels and nothing on the master at all, right? And if we do this in Ableton, we'll get the similar result. I have the same sample loaded up here. Let me just collapse these plugins because they're not on. And here in the second instance, the way Ableton does it, you have to put a utility plugin to flip the phase, which I've done. But same result. We see audio passing through the tracks and then a perfect cancellation in the master. If I turn the phase flip off, it comes back. Right? Pretty simple stuff. Now, if we go over to Reaper, right? I have two instances of re-EQ on the track doing opposite things. Just open up them both and turn them on. Where's the other one? That's one. Let's do. Okay, here we go. Hi. So, if we go up here, I have these on the first instance of the audio and nothing on the second, just a phase flip happening. And how these EQs are set up on the first EQ, right, on the second band, I'm boosting by 5 dB. And on the second one, I'm subtracting, I'm cutting by 5 dB. Right? So if we play this back all together, it behaves as expected. We also have a perfect null happening, meaning that whatever this EQ is doing, this one is undoing exactly. And if you want to see what happens if we get rid of that, so let's turn this off. Now we just have a boost happening here. So if we play this against the inverted version, it doesn't null anymore. There's a difference. Right? I can hear something. I can see audio passing on the master. That's not a null anymore. There's a lot of phase cancellation happening, but there's still enough of a difference that something's passing through. If I turn this back on, it goes away. Right? Perfect null. And if I go back over to Ableton, I can do the same thing with Ableton EQ8, right? So right now, as it is, we have a perfect null, right? Between this and that one. And then I have an EQ8 instance here boosting by 15 dB at 1K. And then I have another one subtracting by 15 dB at 1K. If we play it back, perfect null. Perfect null. Nothing on the master, all on the channels. Now, as Cody pointed out, not all plugins are like this. And I'll show you an example. I'll show you actually an example where there's actually no boost happening at all. This is a Waves API 550A plugin, right? Just by running audio through it, we don't get a perfect null anymore. It's close, but if you look at the master, you see how there's a little bit of something happening here, right? And if we want to contrast that with EQ8, right? Here's one instance of EQ8 totally flat, and we get a perfect null. So if you run audio through EQ8, genuinely nothing happens to it. On that Waves plugin, a little bit of something happens to it. I don't know what, but something is happening. Might be somewhere in the stereo image or something. I don't know what's happening under the hood of that thing. That may be a good question for Dan. He's the wizard when it comes to that kind of stuff. Now, one thing I did want to show you. We open up my emphasis and de-emphasis rack. I'm going to put this on here, set the drive to 0. Everything else is flat. Doesn't null. Why? What's happening? Right? I was kind of surprised when I saw this. This should be, at least for what I would assume, I was like, wait, everything is set flat. There's no boost or cut in the EQ. Right? It's just going straight through. The drive is set to 0. How come this doesn't null anymore? What is different? If I turn it off, it nulls. What's wrong, right? I figured out it's the saturator plugin. Check this out. If we get rid of this, even though we know that EQ8 does null, whether you're setting it flat or doing opposite boosts and cuts, if we take the saturator alone and just put it on dry with nothing turned on, doesn't null. Something's happening here. Right? Setting the drive to 0. Setting the output on or the soft clipping isn't turned on. I don't know what's happening under here. Now you can click around and try the different distortion modes. Pretty much every distortion mode here, even when it's set flat, it's doing something. I was kind of surprised to see this because usually the expectation when you open up a plugin and don't do anything is that it's not going to be doing anything. So given that, I wanted to just open up a lot of plugins, which I went and did here, and just see where this kind of thing is occurring like it did with the saturator. So I'll give you a quick example, right? So right now we have a perfect null. There's no difference between these two tracks other than the phase flip. But if I put on the channel EQ, for example, same thing as that API joint, right? There's a little bit of something happening. So just by passing audio through this, it does something. But that's not even the most extreme example. Like the one that surprised me was the multiband plugin. This is an instance of multiband with everything turned off. This isn't doing anything. I would think it's not doing something. Apparently it is. All right, all the bands are disabled. Right, there's no compression happening. But this does not phase cancel. So something is happening. And as you can see down in the lower left, there's zero samples of latency. So I'm saying, like, what could this be that this is changing? Because if we turn it off, we go back to our perfect null. So I think the two big things to take away from this are, number one, just because a plugin is set to 0 and it looks like it's doing nothing, quote unquote, that doesn't necessarily mean it's actually not doing anything. And through using null tests like this, you can verify for yourself if something is actually changing or if it is truly doing 0 and not changing what's going in. Like I discovered a plugin, just real quick to recap, a plugin like EQ8. If we put EQ8 here, do nothing, and then test it against a phase flipped version, we get a true phase cancellation. If we do that with EQ3, on the other hand, we do not. just by going through EQ3, something's happening. Right? Even if, let's set the filters wide open. Still something. Do with that what you will. I'm happy to field more questions. Hopefully Cody is, like, this answers your question. And like I said, I will link to all of the other videos I referenced in this, both my video and Dan Worrell's original video. And of course, if you want to support what I'm doing, you like these kind of videos, you like how I explain things, I have links to my Patreon and my sample website where you can get the stuff I use and the stuff I make, and as well as get some subscriber-only content inside the Patreon, which is always a fun thing. I'm trying to build a little community in there of people who can all work together and stuff. So anyway, until the next time, see you later.